welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, again, we're taking a look at, of course, the hot topic of the year, of last year and this year, is, of course, the COVID pandemic and the vaccinations. Now, there have been a lot of queries about the vaccinations, what work, what doesn't, what are the after effects, what should be the gap between the two doses. We've done a lot of shows on that, but since the questions keep coming, we need to update our audience viewers also on what is happening. So we're having another roundtable on that. And also, we're going to be taking a look at the mutations, also the questions, why do people who got the vaccination still, there've been a couple of cases who've got COVID. How does that happen? The rumors about Covishield Covishield versus Covaxin, that debate. So we're going to be taking a look at all the controversies, all the debates, and updating you with some very vital information on this show today. Joining me is Dr. Romel Tikku. He is director at the Internal Medicine at Max. Dr. Harsh Mahajan, founder Mahajan Imaging. Professor Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, he is the chairman at Nephron and also a Padma Shri awardee. Dr. Bagai, one of your audio video clip has gone viral where you've been explaining the concept as to why when someone gets the injection, has got the vaccination, has still managed to get COVID. So can you explain to our viewers, the difference between efficacy and effectiveness? I think that's really the question you need to answer.
Good evening, Priya. Good evening, everyone. Two parts to your question. First is with regards to the vaccine itself. Now, this vaccine, which has been in the Indian scenario, there are two vaccines. One is Covishield and the second is Covaxin. The first dose is given on day 1 and the second is given on day 28 to day 30. Now, what really happens is that there is a initiation of an immune response after any vaccine. So this is an active immunization to precipitate an immunity in a human being. Now, there are two kinds of immune response which we see initially. So one is what we call as an antibody response, which is a B cell response, which normally begins after the first shot by day 13 to day 15. And it starts peaking by about day 44, day 45. That means 15 days after the second shot. Then there is a T cell response, which is your cell-mediated immunity, which is what we call as the antigen sin immunity. So it recognizes the vaccine which has been given and it starts building up your T cells, which are of different types like CD4, CD8, killer cells, helper cells, and so on. They start building up at least a week to 10 days after the second shot. Now, if a person comes in contact with another human being without taking protections of a mask or social distancing, between the first dose and the second dose, that person is distinctly liable to catch infection. If he comes in contact soon after the second dose, he is still liable. But having said that, both the vaccines, the first dose and the second dose, what do? They make the transmissibility of the virus a lot lesser. They decrease the severity of the infection. They decrease the critical cases of the infection. They decrease the mortality post-infection. So the vaccine, no vaccine in the world is 100% protective. The maximum what we have seen so far is for the rotavirus in the US scenario, which is about 80 to 82% in terms of effectiveness. Now, very quickly in this segment is when you talk in terms of vaccine efficacy, that is during the clinical trial mode in a very controlled environment. So you have two groups. You have a placebo or a control group, which are given not the vaccine, and then you have a vaccinated group. And then you compare the two groups and therefore see how good the vaccine is working to prevent the infection. In effectiveness in the real world scenario, a lot of things change. There are environmental factors, there are comorbid conditions, there are age constraints, not being strictly as per norms as far as your clinical trial is concerned. So your effectiveness is how many people actually land up getting the infection in spite of your 2 injections. So the effectiveness on the ground is definitely slightly lower than the efficacy in clinical trial modes. Having said that, the message is you must get the vaccine. Do not worry about the efficacy. The real serious cases and mortality will come down with the vaccine. But the last statement which I want to make is, in spite of your 2 vaccines, just do not forget your mask for the entire year of 2021 onwards.
Okay. Dr. Tiku, anything you want to add to that? And also, if you can explain the risk of reinfection post, someone who's got COVID naturally, the natural infection, and getting it again, and also post the vaccination, which Dr. Bagai has, of course, shed some light on.
See, efficacy and effectiveness, as he rightly explained, are different scenarios. Effectiveness is basically in the real world, as he rightly said, and compared to a placebo. And when you're doing it, when there are so many variables actually, the age and the comorbidities, and in the trial actually, it's ideal circumstances and under control circumstances. So there will always be a difference. They will never be the same effectiveness and efficacy. So naturally, when we give it in the real world, we'll see that there are certain breakthrough cases. Breakthrough cases are the ones which have received the vaccination fully, but they still get it. But yes, the disease is mild. They don't have severe symptoms, or the mortality is almost zero. And in the US, actually in Minnesota, they did routine testing on healthcare workers who had received both the doses of vaccination. They found 14 healthcare workers were positive, but most of them were asymptomatic or had mild infection. So see, what about the flu vaccine? It's 60 to 70% efficacious. So you still get flu, or you can still get COVID. It's not a big deal. It's expected because none of the vaccines are 100% effective. So that's why we always say that post-vaccination, keep wearing the mask. That's what he's saying. Throughout the year, keep wearing a mask, maintain social distance. No vaccine can give you 100% protection. So that's why we need to do what we were doing all through the year. And as far as getting COVID post-vaccination, yes, there are cases you can still end up getting COVID, but yes, the disease will be mild. But we have to keep taking precautions, and there should be no hesitancy. You keep hearing about these cases that this guy got COVID post-vaccination, so we should not go for it. Now there are certain cases reported from Europe where they've had clots and embolism and things like that. There was one particular batch which probably had an issue. But what they found later on was the percentage was almost equal as it would have be in the general population. And if you look at India, we've given the vaccine to what, 4 crore people, almost 4 crore. And none of them have had this issue of clots or embolisms or things like that. So this vaccine hesitancy has to go because your vaccine is your biggest bet against the disease even now. And in fact, this is the time when we should ramp up the vaccination further. I would say there should be no restriction. 18 and above, give it to everybody. You should get your Aadhaar card, go to your nearest medical facility, whether it's a dispensary, whether it's a clinic of a doctor or a big hospital, and just get it done with. I mean, how are you going to inoculate 1.3 billion people? Not that you have to inoculate everyone, but majority of the population. Say even the priority, 30 crores, how are you going to do it? We've already been 2 months and we've inoculated 4 crores. At this rate, will be left far behind. So I think the need of the hour is that, first of all, we are looking at a second wave right now. So Maharashtra is already having a second wave, 25,000 cases in 24 hours. Rest of the states also, whether it's Karnataka, whether it's Kerala, whether it's Punjab, Delhi, Chhattisgarh, everywhere there's a spike in the cases. So we should learn from the other countries, and the need of the hour is to take precautions and ramp up the vaccination. If we do that at a war footing, we'll be able to reduce the numbers, reduce the transmission of infection. And people also have to understand this because with the Holi festival coming next week, I'm sure there'll be more gatherings, there'll be parties. And we've seen what these weddings and these social gatherings and festivals can do. I mean, I've been looking after one family, 40 odd patients, cases positive after a wedding. So what do? I mean, people are not ready to listen to you. So there should be no vaccine hesitancy. We should ramp up the vaccination. We should keep testing the way we are testing right now. Even in Delhi right now, 80,000 tests a day, which is great, amazing. Because in Delhi also cases have gone up. So I would say there should be no hesitancy. Ramp up the vaccination. Don't listen to too many people. Just listen to the experts. Go by the guidelines and go by the data. 4 crore people have been inoculated. I don't see any issue with this. Whether it's Covaxin or whether it's Covishield, people keep calling, which one should we take? Well, there's not much of a difference, 70% or 80%. How does it really matter? As long as both are safe and efficacious.
That's actually, Dr. Mahajan, that's my question to you is, the rumors regarding Covishield, how worried should one person really be?
Even before answering that, Priya, I'd like to reiterate what the previous two speakers have said, because everyone seems so surprised that someone who took 2 vaccine shots and 3 weeks down the line develops COVID because he was careless. It should not surprise anyone. See, when we talk of a fully vaccinated person, if he is not careful, he can still get the disease, as has been, said time and time again. So don't be surprised if someone has got the disease. It's not that the vaccine is not working. The vaccine has worked. And because of the vaccine, this person who's got the disease will get a mild disease or an asymptomatic disease. He will get hardly any symptoms. He will not need to go to hospital. He will not die from it. So the vaccine is need to remember is that you have to continue to take the precautions because you are careless, number one. Number two, and more importantly, you can transmit this disease to others around you. So just reiterating this fact, don't be surprised with these WhatsApp forwards that are going, hey, is the vaccine's not working, this guy still got COVID. You can get COVID. Vaccines are claiming 70%, 80% efficacy. And so the balance in any case you're saying will get the disease. Now to your question about these so-called clots which came up, and Dr. Ku alluded to that, and this happened actually only in Europe. We've already, given more than 2 crore jabs of Covishield, the same vaccine, clot formation of a major number in 2 crores. We've not even had 50 people or 20 people who've reported this. So, and today, as you've seen, both the UK and the European Union have said that the benefits far outweigh the risks, and that vaccination has restarted in Europe from today. Now, when they vaccinated about 1.7 crore people in Europe and found 50 odd cases of development of clots and, in the veins and some pulmonary thromboembolism. And then they looked at the statistics of what happens in 1.7 crore normal people during the course of 2 weeks. And they found that actually those numbers were higher in the non-vaccinated as compared to the vaccinated. So that defeated their own argument. And this stop that they had put on the vaccination drive has been lifted, and thankfully so. Because in this era where there is vaccine hesitancy, where random cases are, touted and they fly around the world on WhatsApp and email, I think this was a great disservice done by these multiple governments. Whether there was some political angle to it, I don't know, because this is a UK vaccine. And UK has just left the European Union. But I'm glad that they accepted and the vaccination has started again. I don't think in this country anyone needs to be, afraid or scared about something similar happening. With over 2.5 crore jabs, nothing of the kind has happened. So please go ahead, get the jab.
Dr. Baid, as we are talking, there is also, a second surge, the rise in cases. Again, Dr. Tikku alluded to that. The mutations that are coming in. So, your take on all this, how worried should we be, and what, are we going to not see the end of COVID for a long time, I can see?
Okay, so very quickly, for the viewer's point of view, most of us as medical professionals understand this reasonably well. So this RNA virus will mutate because it has to evolve. Right, and unfortunately, the virus has evolved, but our human behavior is not evolving to keep match with it, and that's really the issue. So when we have an urge to have irresponsible behavior, then COVID gives us the surge. Now, what is this mutation? When you're talking in terms of mutation, the RNA virus has certain building blocks, what we call as amino acid base pairs. So it goes as ATGC. There are 4 important amino acids which continue to give the link to form the strand of RNA. Whenever there is a change in the structure, it is called as mutation. So mutation is of two types. It can be a substitution. That means one amino acid is replaced by another, or it can be a deletion. One goes away and the other one does not come back to replace it. In either case, when that happens, the virus becomes a mutant in terms of a structure. That means it becomes a mutant strain. When this entire building block changes its structure to actually start causing clinical abnormalities, then it is called as a variant, which happens all over in a particular community. So the words are not synonymous, so we should be careful from a medical orientation point of view. Now, there are more than 12,700 mutations which have taken place in the beta coronavirus all over the world. There are more than 7,000 which have happened in India, which have been documented on gene sequencing. 33 of them are more frequent. More frequent the mutations, more deadly the virus becomes. So what does this mutation do? One is it increases the transmissibility of the virus because the virus becomes more in attack mode, so to say. Point number two is it latches on to the cell and becomes more infective. Three is it becomes more liable to give moderate and severe infections in a higher case, increases the death rate. It can escape the vaccine in terms of what we call as vaccine escape mutant, and it can escape the therapeutics. That means the medicines will not work in terms of the antibodies which we give. And last, most importantly, these mutants can escape the diagnostic test itself because there is something as a proofreading on the S part of the protein. Now, very simply, the S part of the protein, which everyone knows, every household knows, it's a spike protein. It has two parts, what we call as S1 and S2. The S1 part, which is the B fraction of S1 part, is called the receptor binding domain. That's the part which actually latches onto your ACE receptors, mainly in the nose and some in the lungs in your upper part of your throat. And then it goes on to infect through your S2, which causes the fusion into the body. These mutants are causing rampaging damage, especially in the European Union. Countries and places like in Ireland, it has an attack rate more than 450% increase. Therefore, when we talk in terms of a serosurveillance henceforth, worldwide, what they're doing is not just an antibody test, but a neutralizing antibody titer. That is important because antibodies itself are of different types. And point number two, so we have to become more specific, more niche in our approach. And point number two, we have to continue to do genomic sequencing. Very quickly is when we talk in terms of gene sequencing, what we normally in a scientific manner do is we lay open the strand and we get a lineage. Lineage is a straight line, and the length of the lineage, the severity of the mutations in a lineage give how mutant they are. So the first one was called as D614G, which was a mutant strain. Then it became the UK variant, which was the B117. So when you talk from a common man's point of view to understand, when you talk of B1.1.17, that means it's that part of your S protein, S1 protein, and 1.1.7 is the location where the substitution or deletion has taken place.
Sounds like a maths theorem, Dr. Bagai. You lost me.
Yeah, so you have the South African variant, which is 351. You have a P1 variant, which is in Brazil. You have a P2 variant, which is in Japan.
Short answer is that will all the new vaccinations handle the mutations, or we have
most of them? Yeah, most of the vaccines will give reasonably good protection even against the variants. But if the variants tend to create havoc, what they do is what Dr. Tiku had mentioned is longer the vaccination drive is going at a slower speed. This is called as selective pressure on the immunogenicity of the virus. That means the virus is now confused. It's going to change its structure even more because it doesn't know what the environment is going to do to it. So therefore the mutations kick in. Quicker we drive this vaccination drive, it really doesn't matter now. It's with or without comorbidities, 40, 45, 35. It doesn't matter because every person is a link in the chain of transmission. So let's break the chain of transmission.
Actually, I agree with this point. I wish the government would speed up and open it to everybody because then you read about vaccine wastage. That's really hits you because there are so many people just waiting to take the vaccination. But the new cases, the surge, Dr. Tiku, apart from vaccination, what else? Are the cases milder? Are the cases going to worry people more?
Well, I would say the cases are still mild, but there are more hospitalizations happening. And again, there's a problem with the beds, especially in the bigger hospitals. But by and large, the cases are mild, but cases are picking up. Now we've reached 600 odd. A month back, 2 months back, we were at 100, 150. And if we look at the overall country figures, then Maharashtra is pretty bad, 25,000 cases. And then, as I said, Karnataka is also picking up. Kerala has its ups and downs, but it's having a spike for the last 2, 3 months now. Then Punjab, more than 2,000 cases. All over, the trend is the same. And we might be actually looking at a second wave now, which has almost hit Maharashtra. So we have to be extremely careful right now. And we have to be very aggressive with testing also. Testing, isolation, the sooner we diagnose them, the better it is. Trace the contacts, be very aggressive in tracing the contacts. Maybe we've been a little complacent regarding that also because the cases had gone down. Last 2, 3 months, there was a declining trend in the cases. So I think all of us had become a little complacent and people had stopped wearing masks and stuff like that. So, but we have to keep doing what we are doing, even though the cases that we see now are mild and we are wiser in the disease now. It's been almost a year. So we know whom to hospitalize, whom not to hospitalize, when to give antiviral drugs, when to give steroids. And people are also very aware. They keep monitoring their oxygen saturations. They keep doing their blood tests, whether it's the CRP, whether it's the IL-6, whatever. They are well versed with all these facts and figures. So what I would say is that right now, the disease is mild, we're able to control it. But look at what happened in UK, US, Europe. The healthcare system took a big hit. And we also went through it, at least in Delhi, in the month of November. It was very bad. There were no beds available. There were 6,000 cases a day. So we should not reach that situation. Before we reach that,
Should we ban Holi? Should there be a what would your advice be?
I think I would just request people to play Holi from their house with their own family, immediate family, and not be part of large, big gatherings. And see, whenever you celebrate a festival, it's not possible for you to wear a mask and maintain social distancing when you are playing Holi. I mean, let's be frank. So people should stick to their house, do it there. Banning, whether it's an option or not, I'll leave it to the government. But I would request people to stay inside, whichever festival it is, celebrate from home, especially a festival like Holi can really spike the numbers. We've seen what has happened in Kerala or Maharashtra post Ganpati, Onam. These festivals really lead to a spike in the numbers, and that's the last thing that we need right now. If there's another spike with the economy opening, the hotels, restaurants, swimming pools, everything, I mean, everything is back to normal. And at this point, if there's another spike, and we'll take a big hit and everything will go to square one. And schools might be opening soon, maybe June, July, we'll have reopening of the schools. So we should be looking forward to all that, life getting back to normal. But at the same time, we also have to understand that this disease is here to stay. It's not dead and gone. For the entire year, as Dr. Bagai said, we have to keep wearing the mask. We have to maintain social distancing. And we might be fine. We might be younger. We might be healthy. But when you bring it back home and give it to your parents who might be diabetics, who might have cardiac issues, cancer patients, or your grandparents, they might actually be in trouble. So it's not about you or me. It's about all of us, your friends, your family.
Dr. Mahajan, you are on a lot of committees also.
Priya, can I just add on to what Dr. Romil has said? If you analyze what he said is absolutely 100% nailing the truth. If you analyze the last 6 months worldwide data from 25 to 50 years age group, what we call as the younger population, was only comprising of 18 to 20% of the total case load. Worldwide now it is reaching 40%. It has doubled. And the reason why this is because of comorbids and asymptomatic carriers, and people are not taking adequate precautions, because this is the group which is going out for the social gatherings and the weddings and the parties. Therefore, the vaccination should be eased as far as the norms is concerned. And I would be a very strong promoter, no social gatherings.
Okay. Good message to send out on the eve of Holi. But Dr. Mahajan, is the government planning to ramp up the rollout? You're privy to a lot of the discussions that are taking place. Is that going to happen anytime soon?
I think that's going to happen. As you've seen, the government has done it in a phased manner, starting from healthcare workers, going on to the frontline workers, and then 60 plus, 45 to 59, it has been ramped up in a phased manner, and from about 1.5, 2 lakhs, we even reached 30 lakh jabs a day a few days ago. So the government is well aware. But Priya, you have to remember, this is not an inexhaustible supply of vaccine that we have. There are capacity constraints, there are manufacturing constraints, there are, of course, constraints of being able to give the jab, which with the coming in of the private sector and the opening up of many new centers, and there is, of course, you could ramp it up much quicker also. And also, from a limited time span of 9 to 5, now it's 8 to 8. They've even said if you want to do it 24 hours, you can do it. So the government is aware, but also the citizenry has to be aware, and they have to cooperate, and they have to continue following COVID appropriate behavior. Because if we don't follow that, like we've said, the vaccine is a panacea, no doubt, but it's not, an absolute panacea. You can still get the infection and transmit the infection. And that's where the government can only do that much. It's aware and it's very concerned. And there's huge behind the doors activity that's happened in the last few days, ever since this surge, which appears to be the second wave starting. And we have to nip it in the bud. And there is no doubt, I agree entirely with Romal and Sanjeev, that we have to ramp up the vaccination drive manyfold. Just as we took it tenfold, a jump from 3 lakh to 30 lakhs, we need to reach 50 lakh, 60 lakh, even 1 crore a day, if that's possible. But then again, I'd like to emphasize, this is a 2-step procedure. You need 2 jabs. And you don't want a situation as what happened in the UK, where, they had to go from a 4-week interval to a 3-month interval just because they wanted to vaccinate as many people as possible with 1 jab, and they didn't have enough capacity. Even now, the government insists that 4 to 6 weeks is the time interval during which you should take the 2nd jab. And with that in view, they have to have enough jabs available for the 2nd dose. Otherwise, the 1st dose may, the effectiveness of the 1st dose may go waste. So it's not that, if we could ramp up to 10 crores a day,
but we need the supply
it would be
also
possible. There are many more factors to be considered.
Thank you all of you for joining, and also a word of some anecdotal conversation that I've been talking to people, because I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on all of you from people who are below 60 coming to you saying, give us the chit saying we have comorbidities so that we can get the vaccination. Well, I believe the insurance company is looking at that because they say you haven't declared all these comorbidities in your insurance, so they're going to be actually taking that data and signing up. So
I warn all these people, with your permission, Priya, I warn all these people that, this is linked to your Aadhaar card. So the health insurance company is going to get a hold of it. So don't misdeclare.
Correct. I just heard about this. I thought something I'll share with our viewers. But thank you all of you for this conversation, and stay safe. Happy Holi, and just stay safe, I think is the main question.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.